month ago when Andrew emailed me and said, you have to do something, tell a story about something that happens in the next 30 days, I got a little nervous. But then I breathed a sigh of relief when I remembered two things. One, in those 30 days is Halloween, and I live in Wrigleyville. Problem solved. I do have to tell just a little bit of backstory to qualify mine. Last New Year's Eve, I went to a party, and I ran into a buddy of mine who I run into every 6 months, a year or so like that, and he introduced me to his sister, this very cute, short, busty gal. And I chatted her up for the whole evening, and I won't say my intentions were, but you know. And right before midnight, when everyone starts pairing off for, the big kiss, she goes off, and I realize, oh, she has a boyfriend. No big deal. Generally not bothered by this. Is no harm, no foul. We friend each other on Facebook, and about 2 months later, just out of nowhere, she messages me, and she starts asking me about storytelling and stand-up and all that. I'm like, that's cool. And we start messaging each other, and every other day, usually like when we're bored, like, hey, what are you up to? And we'll start messaging each other. That brings me up to the 30 days. The Thursday before, the Saturday before Halloween, I get a message from her, are you coming to my brother's birthday party this Saturday? And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to Wrigley on the Saturday before Halloween. But then I realized I haven't actually seen her in person in the last 10 months, since New Year's Eve. And they're going to Mullins, which is like 2 blocks from my apartment. I really have no excuse left not to go to this fucking thing. So I had a show at 8 o'clock, and I figured I'll go after the show, I'll be there at like 10 o'clock. Forgetting that this was a Saturday on Halloween in Wrigley, and I'm just showing up at 10 o'clock. So I show up, everyone's already drunk and in costume, and they're going at it, and it's great, but I'm stone sober and not in costume. So I just want to go in, say hi for like an hour, and then fucking leave and go home and go to sleep. So I go into Mullins, I see her brother, I say, hey, what's up? And I buy him a drink, and I'm there for about 5 minutes. And then I hear the Wrigleyville mating call. I turned around just in time for her to run up and jump into my arms. Which, by the way, only a drunken Wrigley woman can both jump and fall at the same time. She is very drunk, which I did not take into account. And she's dressed as a devil, and the reason I put it in quotation marks, all it is like a red corset and devil horns. That's her costume. And also, too, she's still dating the same guy, so I had no intentions this night. I really just, because she takes the time to message me, I wanted to say hi. So she comes up to me, oh my God, you came! You showed up, we talk all the time, and you came and you're here, and that's awesome, and we're leaving. We're leaving. I just got there. And so I'm like, okay. She's like, no, we're going down to the Cubby Bear because we want to dance. I'm not in costume and I'm sober and I don't dance, but I'm already here, so let's do this. We go outside. We're about 20 feet from the door. When she said we're leaving, I assumed she meant the whole party is going down to the Cubby Bear. We're 20 feet out the door, and I realized, like, oh, she just meant us. Like, me and her and like 3 of her girlfriends are going down to the Cubby Bear. I'm uncomfortable right now. Because, like, I feel like I just bailed on her brother's party, and she just bailed on her boyfriend, and, like, this is not how I wanted my night to go. And we're walking down the sidewalk, and she grabs my arm, and she just starts going, hey. Byron. Hey. I let this go on for a little while, because I thought it was funny. She goes, how do you know David and Sarah? And I'm like, actually, those are 2 of my best friends. How do you know David and Sarah? She's like, I saw on Facebook you know David and Sarah. You didn't answer my question. So we walk towards the end of the block. We go over to the Cubby Bears. One of her friends wants to have a cigarette, so we wait outside. And then again, she goes, hey, how do you know David and Sarah? I'm like, I just told you, they're 2 of my best friends. And while I'm trying to explain this to her, I see her friends and they are staring daggers at me. And I know what it looks like when a woman's pissed off at me. They are fucking staring me down. And I completely understand why. Like, under these circumstances, yes, that is a valid stare down that is happening right now. We have the cigarette, we go in the Cubby Bear. Let me describe the drunken land of Oz that was the Cubby Bear that night. First costume I see, which I actually thought was kind of cool, a guy in a bowler hat with an apple, like, taped right here, like the painting. Some guy with like a frame. I don't know what the hell he's supposed to be, but the whole night I saw him trying to drunkenly keep it straight, which I thought was hilarious. And my favorite costume of the night, hands down, 3 women dressed as mice with dark shades and canes. They were the 3 blind mice. They were not the sexy 3 blind mice. They were like skin-tight suits, but they weren't revealing or anything. But they committed to the bit. Like, I would not be surprised to find out that like one of them was legit blind and the other ones were playing like sisterhood. I don't know that, but like I want to believe that because that's an awesome like little thing to that story. But I think they had him blacked out because they were like bumping into people, not in an obnoxious way, just like, wow, these women are acting blind, and I'm impressed by that. But we go to like some corner, we all put our coats down, and then Allison, I haven't said her name, Allison, she comes up to me, and she goes, hey, how do you know David and Sarah? I've told you this. Why don't you tell me how you know David and Sarah? I dated this guy who was like friends with them, and here's what was happening at this moment. And this took me a few minutes to pick up on what was happening. Her mind and her mouth wanted to tell me this banal anecdote, like how she knew them and all that. Her body was still drunk and came there to dance. And she's a close talker, so she's already like pressed up against my body. But now she's like, so yeah, I used to date a friend of theirs, and they don't really like me too much anymore. And I'm like, oh. And I can see their friends are still staring at me, so I do what I call the nice guy jazz hands, like, nope. I am not a privy to this. I am not egging this on. I am not encouraging this in any way. This is not how I want my night to go. So I finally break down, like, all right, yeah, David and Sarah, they're 2 of my best friends. I do a couple shows with them. In fact, I almost went to a Halloween party with them last Friday. She goes, oh, whose party? I go, oh, Mike Johnson, a friend of ours. She goes, oh, I used to date him. I'm like, really? How did you date Mike? She goes, oh, see, I was set up on this day, right? And I was supposed to meet this guy at a certain time and at a certain place, and he didn't show up. I mean, seriously, who doesn't show up? And he didn't show up. And then Mike came by, and he said hi to me, and we met him, and then I made out with him in a stairwell out back. And I felt like I missed a part of that story, so I asked her to repeat it. Like, nope, that's all it was. And this friend, like, I've only seen a person once before, is telling me all these details about my friends. I'm like, I don't want to know. And you ever just take a moment and take stock of what's going on all around you? I'm in the Cubby Bear. It's about 11:30 midnight. It's a Saturday before Halloween. This woman, who's very attractive, but I'm not hitting on at all, is telling me details about my friend's sexual history while grinding up against me, while I am trying to resist, while her friends are staring daggers at me. There's a band on stage dressed like the Village People singing Monster Mash. There's people half naked all around me in weird costumes, and there's a fog machine and there's light machines. And throughout all of this, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I look over and there's 3 blind mice walking by, and I knew everything was gonna be okay. So eventually I let her talk me into having a drink, and I have 1 drink, and I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I just wanted to be here for like a half an hour to an hour and go home and go to sleep. And that's what I wanted my Saturday night to be. And it has taken this fear and loathing in Las Vegas turn that I did not expect. So I say goodnight. I say goodbye to her friends. I made it very clear, like, nope, nothing happened. I had no intentions tonight. I went up to the three blind mice, and I'm not kidding, I went up to them, I'm like, I applaud your commitment. But at this point, I'm very hungry, so I go to the Taco Bell next door. Again, forgetting what night this is. If you've ever been to the Taco Bell in Wrigleyville, it's an interesting experience on an average weekend. On Halloween, they had 2 armed guards inside of it. Not kidding about that at all. And I go inside, I have 1 drink, but I'm still sober, and I go in there, and there's people passed out on the table, and the guards, and I place my order. And the little gal behind the counter, she goes, how's your night going? And I go, I am way too sober to be experiencing all this. And she looks me dead in the eye and she goes, you are preaching to the choir, man.